With Ask Boris. Mayor of London Boris Johnson takes your calls with Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. This is Ask Boris on LBC.
Okay, folks, good morning. Here I am, Boris Johnson, bringing you Ask Boris on LBC. We do exactly what it says on the tin. Ask me anything you want over the next 45 minutes. Me or my trusty help meet Mr. Nick Ferrari. The numbers for you to get your questions on the air are 034560 60973 or email boris@lbc.co.uk, and don't forget you can watch in grisly reality, high definition on the website. I don't know, it's a good thing this time of the morning, Nick, in view of the night you had last night. I've been hearing whether the viewers want to see us in high definition.
No,
I rather doubt. Never mind.
Of course, you were in bed with a good book or someone who's read one by 10 p.m. I'm sure.
Exactly right. It was St David's Day dinner last night. Where
were you? Where were you celebrating?
The Guildhall with 430 people from the valleys.
Oh, there we go.
It was very good. Anyway, we're going first of all to Vincent in Earl's Court. Vincent?
Hi. Boris, you go on about your London transport system and that, and how it's the top one in the world and all that.
Yeah.
Basically, I was involved in a road traffic accident there just over 4 months ago in the city where a cyclist died under the back wheels of my truck.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She died because she couldn't afford your London transport. She was here on a voluntary course for 2 weeks, 3 months. She was here 2 weeks, couldn't afford the transport system, and had to buy a push bike to get to and from the voluntary job. Now, you've been out in trucks and all that. It's all been staged and all that. Basically, it's all sterile. You don't go out and do the day's work that we actually do as lorry drivers. We come up against cyclists. They come down our near side and that all the time. We beep a horn. We get the finger. We get abused. What's the problem? You know, we've done what London Transport have asked us to do. We've done what the government have asked us to do. We've done our CPC. We've trained up to the last. We're in this industry years. Anyone can get up on a push bike and go out for the day on a push bike.
Yes.
Is this going to be changed? You know, because
no. Vincent. Obviously, I know the accident you describe. I don't know the exact circumstances of the cycling fatality that you described.
Let me help you on that. It's a cyclist. She died after 3 days after the collision. It was Janina Galau. She was 26. She was on Ludgate Hill, close to the junction with Farringdon Street. She was taken to the Royal London Hospital with her family at her bedside. She'd come to London from Dusseldorf in Germany, was studying for a master's degree and completing a dissertation in London. The City of London police confirmed the lorry driver was not arrested. Police at the time investigated, and Vincent, the driver, has been cleared, Mr. Mayor.
Well, in any one of these deaths is one too many, and if you go out on the streets of London today, you will see police out in force on Operation Safeway trying to get cyclists to obey the law. I've just come through a series of I haven't come through a series of red lights. I've stopped at every red light, and it's quite incredible to see the number of police there. And actually, the cyclists I was with were very reassured by that, because it's good to see the police enforcing the law, not just for cyclists, but also for motorists who go into the advanced stop boxes, and other motorists who break the law. Now, in the case of Vincent, who has obviously had a terrible experience, he's been at the wheel of a truck that has been involved in a fatal collision with a cyclist, and that's something he's going to have with him for the rest of his life. And it's of course, I understand the tragedy for Vincent as much as for the poor woman who died. And this is a totally awful thing to have happened.
No, Boris,
but can I, Vincent, if you'll allow me, Vincent.
Back to you in a minute, Vincent.
If you'll allow me. What we need to do is to continue to educate cyclists about the importance of obeying the law of the road, and also to be aware of other road users. And one thing that we are particularly concerned about is obviously cyclists who do get caught up in heavy goods vehicles turning in one direction or the other, particularly turning left. And I'm afraid it's very often particularly female cyclists who seem to be the victims of these types of terrible accidents. They're by no means. I just have it in my head that we've had a high.
No, but why do you suppose women have
given
more
the
troubles?
proportion of male and female cyclists? I have it in my head that there's a higher proportion of. I think it may be because women are naturally more cautious or hang back more or some reason. I can't explain it.
So you shouldn't be cautious.
But what you need to do is to get in front of the vehicle, get in front of Vincent and his lorry, indicate, make sure that the truck driver knows you're there. Indicate, wave, be like. Hang on, Vincent, if you'll allow me, be like Simon Rattle with the Berlin Philharmonic, or the Berlin whatever it is. Show the cyclist that you are there, and
Mr. Mayor,
and actually
to do that, you've taken your hand off the handlebars.
No, you're
So you're executing a left-hand turn.
No. Sorry, you're stationary. This is a traffic lights, and because typically what will happen is that the traffic will be stationary, and this was what happened the other day, by the way, in Victoria, and It was an absolutely ghastly accident, and the traffic was motionless, and then everybody took off, and a cyclist, a female cyclist, just was caught by a lorry turning left. He simply didn't see her. The female cyclist was there, as it were, on the top left, underneath, as it were, in his blind spot on the left hand side of his cab, and he simply took off and didn't see her, and she sustained terrible injuries. Now, if you can indicate to the truck driver that you're there, you will greatly assist matters.
Let's talk to a driver.
I must insist that what I think Vincent wants us to do is to have some system whereby we get cyclists off the road. We've got more and more cyclists on the road, and that is a good thing. And actually, what they are doing,
because it's all for profit. It's Boris bikes are just for profit. They're not for cyclists caring about the cyclists.
No,
if you want to care about the cyclists, make it compulsory that they do a road traffic exam. Make it compulsory that they wear high-vis jackets that can be identified. So if they do commit road traffic, commit something that they shouldn't have done on the road, they can be clearly identified and punished for that.
Well, I think
we're punished left, right, and centre.
Well, you haven't. I think most listeners will hear that you haven't been punished, and because you plainly weren't at fault. And the tragedy of this is that a cyclist has lost her life. What we're trying to do is to educate both truck drivers and cyclists in safety on the roads. What we can't do is, I think, try to drive cyclists off the roads. What we must do is put in the infrastructure that we need to make cycling safer, and we're doing that with heavy investment in better cycleways. But I want to stress, Vincent, in spite of the tragic accident that you've experienced, the tragic accidents that I've described earlier on, if you look at the number of journeys that are now made by bike, and you look at the number of accidents, you can see that the accident rate, the killed, seriously injured rate is coming down and down. It is well down on what it was before. And actually, it's coming down absolutely, not just in terms of the ratio. So that is an achievement by everybody who's trying to make cycling safer in London. And obviously, I'm grateful for the support and the help of the Freight Operators Recognition Scheme, people who work with freight operators to try to make our truck safer. We are bringing in, and I'm sure your truck already complied fully, Vincent, but we are bringing in London from September the world's first safer lorry scheme, which will mean that no truck can come into our city unless it has the kind of safety equipment that we would want to see on lorries.
And many of these fatalities have been caused because they don't have that bit of kit, is it? Is that right?
Well, it's certainly one of the biggest factors is that
these are the
cabs,
skirts, are they?
The skirts can be helpful, but the biggest factor, in my view, is that the cabs are so high up, and it's very hard for the truck drivers to see around them. And unless they are properly fitted with proper mirrors and indeed with CCTV, sometimes it is very difficult to spot cyclists. That's not yet part of the package. But ultimately, Nick, that kind of thing must be part of the package, unless we can substantially redesign the cabs.
Right.
If you get inside the cab of an HGV in London, they are incredibly high up.
Yes.
They can't see the rest of the road. It must be scary for a truck driver to be in that position of power. And therefore of responsibility. We need to help them.
Okay.
And we need to get them more visibility.
Safe driving to you, Vincent. We must move on, not diminishing the import of this, but there are other matters. There are other calls on Ask Boris.
Can we go to Ahmed in New Malden, please?
Good morning.
Good morning,
Mr.
sir.
Johnson, Mr. Ferrari.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, my question is that figures for the corruption cases for the Metropolitan Police have been published, have been revealed today. Now, one case is too many, especially when it concerns perverting the course of justice.
Ahmed, I don't think I don't have the benefit of this. Mr. Ferrari is shuffling through his papers here.
Let me just tell everyone, nearly 50 Metropolitan Police officers and 26 staff members have been suspended for alleged corruption in the past 2 years. Figures just released. Of the 47 officers, 11 were convicted. This comes from a Freedom of Information request. A total of 222 officers were suspended between 2012 and 2014. On you go with your question, Ahmed.
Yes. Now, especially when it concerns perverting the course of justice, as was the case with Andrew Mitchell, the celebrated case with
yes, absolutely.
There are so many other minor cases. Now, how can you please raise the standard awareness among the officers? I know Sir Bernard Hogan Howe is doing a grand job. He's very emphatic about cleaning up the clearing out the corrupt police officers. But how can you make sure that higher standards are always implemented?
Are always implemented, yes.
Well, Ahmed, it's an incredibly important question, and actually you're perfectly right in what you say about the recent figures. There has been a publication of the statistics over the last 2 years. I can't really give you a feel for whether that is getting better or worse, but 50 to be suspended over 2 years is obviously a lot. I think you have to set it in context. You're looking at an organisation of 52,000 people or thereabouts, 32,000 roughly frontline officers. You're talking about a huge number of people, but that is too many. Now, I suppose the
HMIC says the threat to the Met of corrupt activity remains significant, Mr. Mayor. Her Majesty's Inspector.
And they would be rash not to say that at any stage. Obviously, the police will come under terrific pressure. There will be terrific temptations from very wealthy criminal gangs and so on. I think it's extremely important that we stamp this out, and I know that Sir Bernard Hogan Howe wants to eradicate this kind of corruption as far as he possibly can. And if the only crumb of comfort I take from this, Ahmed, is that we really are being ruthless with people who are caught. Right. And people should know that if they serve in the police, then they are expected to conform to the utmost standards of probity. That was why the Andrew Mitchell business was so serious, not because Andrew Mitchell was an MP who might have been in some way stitched up, but because every member of the public, everybody in London has got to have confidence in our police, and that's why we crack down on it wherever we can.
All right, we move on to other calls. Thank you.
Can we go to Terence in Tottenham, please? Terence.
Yeah. Hi, Boris.
How are you? Good morning.
Terence, your question, if you would. No question from
What's
Terence.
Happened? No, what's happened?
Well, we'll try one last time. Sometimes the lines drop out. Terence, are you there? Final question? I think not. Let's go on. Jamil is in Southwark. Go ahead, Jamil. You're through to the Mayor.
Hi there. Hi, Boris.
Jamil.
Hiya.
How are you?
Not too bad. I just wanted to ask you about your position on blanket 20-mile-an-hour zones around the boroughs of Southwark, in the borough of Southwark. Well, generally all boroughs in London, where the councils can just impose their speed limits on every road user.
Well, Jamil, as far as I know, I think Islington's already shoved one in, which is where I live.
Camden.
Look, Jamil, I'm going to just repeat what I've always said about this. I think if the local councils are elected by their people, they have a democratic mandate to go for this kind of policy if they want. I think actually a 20-mile-an-hour zone is not the worst thing in the world. I endure it where I live. I don't feel the need to put the pedal to the metal as I scoot through Islington.
That's not it. That's not what I meant. I meant that if the councils, as you said, are democratically accountable to their people, if they believe that a blanket 20 mile an hour is what the people want, then they should have put that to a vote to the people. What I see from the justifications, particularly in Southwark, there were about 7 objections to the proposal, 2-4, and these 7 objections were totally brushed aside with out of date research from year 2000. That's 14 years old, the research. I don't know any organisation that would use a 14-year-old bit of research to justify something.
All right.
Well, Jimmy, I mean, if you feel that this is that your council's going down the wrong route in wanting these, I mean, I've made it very clear. I'm not philosophically opposed to the councils putting in a 20-mile zone if that's what they want. And I've always said that. I've said that for 7 years now, and I'll continue to say it. I think it probably does help to reduce accidents. Probably does help to save lives. If you feel, Jamil, that the proper democratic process hasn't been followed and that objections have been, then what you've got to do is stand for election in the council, overturn this policy, and seek a democratic mandate. If you feel that people are with you, then stand on a motorist ticket in Southwark.
I'm not a motorist. I use the buses a lot, and the buses have become even slower than they already are, Boris. And I don't know.
Well, that's interesting. I tell you what. Jimmy, that is a very interesting point about the buses. If you think the buses are actually being impeded by this, and that's not a point that's been put to me before by TfL or anybody else. If you think our buses, because the average traffic speeds in London are now, as you know, about 9.4 miles an hour. If the buses need to go substantially over 20 miles an hour in order to make their times, then I will find out and I will undertake to get back to you, if I may, because my information is that the 20 mile an hour zone doesn't impede the bus transport system.
All right.
But let me find out.
I have some emails coming in. First off, Wendy in Bexley. In the light of the 3 girls who've gone from London to become jihadi brides, clearly we need to crack down on potential terrorists. Does Boris Johnson think we need the return of control orders instead of the TPIMs that we have now?
Well, I think that the Home Secretary is doing the absolutely right thing in wanting to get back to the system where you can stop people moving around, and that was the essence of the control order. Whether or not it would have been useful in any of the recent cases,
Brussels, though.
I can't say.
It's been
I'm not frankly too fussed about that.
Sorry, you're not too fussed about what?
We have an acute problem with young people who are being led seriously astray in their lives, and they need to be sometimes they need to be properly monitored, and where
override European directives
where necessary. Well, there can't be an EU matter. This might be some sort of human rights thing, Strasbourg matter. I don't know quite what the grounds for objection are. I think most people will say that where you have people who need to be dislocated from their support networks, who are at risk of committing serious, terrible crimes against the public, then I think you should go back to the control orders. I've said that several times on this show.
You don't rate TPIMs.
Well, my information from the Met, from the people who look after us, Nick, who come to brief me about it, is that they think the TPIM system did have defects, and they want to go back to a system of control orders, which will allow them to remove people from their support networks, and that seems to me to be totally
What does
reasonable.
TPIM stand for, Mr. Mayor?
Temporary. I can't remember the exact term.
Temporary?
TPIM. TPIM. Tell me what is it? I can't remember.
Shouldn't you know what it is?
Yeah, I cannot remember what a TPIM is. Whatever it is, it's inadequate.
Terrorism Prevention and Investigation Measure.
There you go. A terrorism prevention and investigation measure is something that needs to be replaced by a control order. You should ask sort of silly, smart aleck questions about.
I don't think it's silly and smart aleck at all to ask. You've just told us that they don't work. It might be an idea to know what it actually stands for. We move on to other calls.
They don't work, and they need to be replaced.
Where do we go now,
by
Mr. Mayor?
control orders? Can we go to?
Festus is in Newham, and you're on the radio.
Well, I've got several questions, several follow-ups from the last time.
Okay. Should we deal with those after this call? How does that sound? Or do you want to deal with those now?
I don't know.
It just shows the efficiency of your offices.
Exactly. You've just been thrusting into my hand.
Colin in Ruislip phone talking about tube doors are being left open. You're already onto it. Sophie in Hillingdon, you're helping the police and TfL.
Exactly.
It just shows the brilliance of the staff around you. It does. Clearly prop you up, by the way. Raj, at least I bet they know what a TPIM is. Raj in Stanmore has been called about a pedestrian crossing in Stanmore. Already your staff are onto it.
I don't believe 99% of the public know what a TPIM is, and what they know is that we need a system that stops people from moving around. Let's go to Festus in Newham. Festus, do you know what a TPIM is?
You'll be pleased to know that I'm very much in your corner here. I don't know, but Nick has kindly reminded me what it is, so I think I can claim to knowing what it is now, yes.
Good.
Okay.
I know what it does, but know what it actually stands for. Well, look, I am really concerned about what is going on in the local area. Actually, as it happens, I need to just mention that I'm standing for Parliament in the local constituency there.
Congratulations, Festus. In whose interest are you? Which party are you standing for?
Conservative Party. I'm with the Conservative
Fantastic,
Party,
Festus. Well, I wish you every possible success from my position of strict impartiality as mayor.
But look,
I hope it goes well for you.
This. We have a huge amount of development going on in the West Ham constituency and in Newham and in much of East London in particular. And I have spent a lot of time working with the local small businesses that make up the backbone of the local economy in this constituency. We don't have any of the big banks or big businesses in the area, so we rely a lot on the micro enterprises. And there's a huge concern at the moment that a lot of the development planning going on in this local area do not take into consideration the interest of the small businesses.
So what would your question be, Festus? I have to move that because everybody wants to talk to Mr.
The question is, what do you have in place at the moment, or what is in place?
Well, let me tell you, Festus, about something that we're trying to do at the moment. One of the big problems we have in all parts of London is the challenge that is posed by the big shopping centres, then particularly the outer London shopping centres, and what we are doing out of town shopping centres. What we're doing is trying to keep the high street going, trying to support small businesses in the high street with our wonderful High Street Fund and Outer London Fund, which is actually one of the best and most popular things we ever started. And what we're backing is a series of projects. It's in Herne Hill. There's a long-term home for new businesses, places where people can start up new technology, get companies going. We're supporting a fast food outlet in Tottenham. The idea is that they will train young people in the catering and retail sector in Tottenham. And the gist of it is we're putting the money into trying to keep alive some of these spaces that are falling into disuse. When you go down so many high streets in London now, you see shuttered up shops or windows that have got that whitey paint stuff on them to
Do you refer to whitewash?
Whitewash, that's the stuff that conceals conceals
just
what's
remind
going on
everybody
inside.
where you were educated.
Shut up. Stop being so incredibly pernickety. And
Whitey stuff.
you know what I'm talking about.
God.
When we're
Best school in the land. Go on.
So they can't say that people. And many wonderful premises are basically not being used.
Right.
And it's a economic waste. We need to rethink our strategy for the high street. And I'm afraid in the long run, given the people's shopping habits, given the rise of the internet, we're going to have to concertina.
Well, let's see if Festus agrees. Festus, a quick response to what you've heard from the mayor.
But just quickly, are you in favour at all of small businesses coming together to try and take over the running of their own high street?
Yes, Festus, absolutely, and we're supporting you through the High Street Fund. And if you want to get involved in one of our projects, if you think there's something in Newham that you'd like to get going, I'm sure that there will be further funding rounds that we can support. We're creating hundreds of jobs, apprenticeships, putting thousands and thousands of square meters of empty shop space back into use. I'll tell you, 24,446.
Right, it's not quite thousands, hundreds of thousands, but that's all very
24,000 is quite okay. Come on,
all right.
That's about a quarter of Canary Wharf.
Just breaking news break. You listen to LBC, it's 9:25. News breaking at this time. There has been, in the words of the police, a significant development in the search for missing 16-year-old Becky Watts. Avon and Somerset police saying they will hold a press conference at 10 a.m. So there's more developments on that. Just coming back to small business, is David Lammy, who of course is after your job as and when you leave next year, is David Lammy right when he says that the impact of a £150 theft from Fortnum and Mason is not as big as a £200 theft to a smaller retailer, and the seriousness of shoplifting should not be based on the value but the impact to the victim, that is to say.
Well, I think, by the way, you talk about David Lammy being after my job, and he's not the only one. All these Labour MPs are queuing up. Have you noticed, like rats leaving a sinking ship, wanting to get my job? We've got Tessa Jar, we've got David Lammy, Sadiq Khan. They're all. And why is that, Nick? Because they sense that they are not going to win the general election, and they're preparing their escape hatch. But on burglary and and shoplifting.
Shoplifting particularly. Yeah.
Shoplifting is a concern. Burglary is actually coming down.
But is David Lammy right when he says a crime is not really a crime, because it's not so much a crime for Fortnum as it would be for the corner shop?
Oh, I see. If that's what he's saying, then I think he's completely wrong. I'm sure that David doesn't mean to say that. I think that's an absurd thing to say. If he's saying that we should somehow,
well, I'll quote him
turn
directly.
a
Many rightly
blind
argue
eye.
the serious of shoplifting should not be based on the value, but on the impact to the victim. That's a direct quote from a leaflet he's written for the Policy Exchange.
Well,
he's wrong, isn't he?
I think if he is, and I think we might be doing him an injustice here. But if he is seriously saying that we should discount or minimise shoplifting from swish posh shops, then I think he's totally wrong, because that it is a crime wherever it is committed, and it's important to crack down on it. Yes, Tesco's have got oodles of money. That doesn't mean it's right to actually it's slightly less than they used to, but Aldi or it doesn't mean it's right to nick stuff from anywhere, and that's why we're cracking down on burglary and on shoplifting. And just on burglary, you should know that offences have fallen 14% year on year. Residential burglary is down 13%. So we really do take it. I think burglary is a vile crime. It hurts people, and it is very psychologically disruptive. People feel shattered when they come home and find that they've been burgled, and it's an absolutely atrocious, evil thing to do.
All right, we go on to other calls if we could.
Can we go to Wyking in Waterloo?
Go ahead,
Hello.
Go ahead,
Hello.
Wyking. You're through to the mayor.
Hi there, yes. I'm very concerned about the huge cost of recent building developments,
Yes.
expensive projects that are draining a disproportionate amount of public money. It does seem to be some reckless spending going on, particularly where the Garden Bridge is concerned.
Well, Wyking, I hear what you're saying. I gather from your location that you're one of those who may be affected by the construction of the Garden Bridge. My own view is that it will be a fabulous thing for our city. Obviously,
Yes, I know. Well, we've heard you say that you think it's a fabulous thing, but I wanted to be absolutely sure that the public would be protected from this private enterprise that might go wrong. So I wanted to ask you if you would provide any kind of guarantee in any way, shape or form. Are you going to provide them with a guarantee that you're going to provide for the maintenance costs of the bridge should they fail in their duty, no matter what the terms of that guarantee might be? Are you going to be the fallback guy for the Garden Bridge?
We'll have to look at the...
How much is this bridge going to cost?
We'll have to look at the exact terms of
£175 million.
of the deal.
£175 million gets you at least 4 bridges in London, not least in East London, where it needs it more. And if you want to make a statement for London, perhaps you should do that without using public money.
Well, the overwhelming proportion of the Garden Bridge funding is coming, as you know, and as you've said, Wyking, from the private sector, and from a great campaign that has been led by Joanna Lumley and others to get support for what I think will be a beautiful scheme. And
but at the end of the day, if the bridge is guaranteed by the public, it is not going to be funded by private sector. So we want from you a guarantee that under no circumstances, no matter what the guarantee says, you will not be funding that bridge if the bridge goes wrong.
Simple guarantee is all Wyking is after. Let's hear that guarantee now.
I don't know quite what. I'm afraid I don't quite understand what she's asking for.
That you won't dip into funds to bail out this bridge, or spend over if the money isn't forthcoming from other sources.
If that's what she's asking, no. Our commitment is limited. We're limited to £30 million contribution,
and that's
from
it.
TfL.
I'm talking about the maintenance costs.
No, the maintenance costs will not be borne by the public sector, and I've also made that clear. So
30 million is 30 million. That's it. No more money, no maintenance, nothing. It's on its own.
And I really think that the bridge will be a wonderful thing, and it will be wonderful for
Why
Waterloo.
Will it be wonderful?
Because it will reanimate that whole Aldwych area, which is a mess at the moment. With a one-way system that means that a whole chunk of the city is barely used in the way it could be. It will drive footfall across to the South Bank. It will connect two parts of the river that two sides of the city.
So it takes off and lands where? It goes from Waterloo
It goes from roughly from about Temple Tube Station on the North Bank, across to LWT on the South Bank, if you can envisage that.
Yes.
And it is it will be a new park for London. It will be a new space where people
Showing
can
your age,
relax.
WT, they went a while ago, didn't they?
Well,
When
you
you
know,
think about
well,
it. I know exactly what you mean.
You know exactly what I mean. The South
ITV
Bank.
Centre.
ITV Centre. Sorry, forgive me.
Oh, sorry. Viking saying, quick email, then we're going to give you the news. Stephanie in Uxbridge, do you regret not taking Malcolm Rifkin's seat? Wouldn't that have been a better one for you?
Come off it. No, I'm absolutely. No, I'm thrilled.
From Uxbridge.
I'm thrilled to have been selected as the candidate.
What
I'm gonna
thrills you about Uxbridge?
Fight for every vote, because I'm proud of a lot of the things I've done together over the last.
No, but what thrills you about Uxbridge? You said you're thrilled about.
It's a glorious part of London, and
In what way?
going back. Do you know, I was in Uxbridge the other day, and guess what I found? Where do you think the world's hottest, coolest electric car manufacturer has decided to locate their principal
I know the answer
workshop,
to the question.
the
Yeah.
main place where they want these snazmobiles
Right,
to
yeah.
be fixed in. Where is the intellectual in Uxbridge?
Right.
I'm proud to say.
Name a
and
pub on the high
I'm
street.
quite right to. And
Name
anyway,
a pub on the high street.
I'm thrilled to be.
Name any pub on the high street.
You go. I'll buy you a drink in Uxbridge if and when.
Which pub?
If
Okay,
and-
I'll meet
if and
you.
when,
Okay, tomorrow.
If
What
and
time?
when
Just name
I'm
the pub.
elected, it would be invidious. It would be wrong and invidious of me to single out one pub when there are many fine hostelries.
But Kensington's
in Uxbridge.
cooler, isn't it?
And it would be.
It is cool. It is more cool in Kensington.
It's not. It's not.
Kensington is not cooler
You are
than
asking.
Uxbridge.
This is like asking a tigress to choose between her cubs. You're asking the Mayor of London to make any kind of distinction between any part of London and
the tigress shall return after the news.
And it is
On
absolutely
LBC.
snooty nonsense.
Ask Boris.
Uxbridge is and South Rice is absolutely
After
fantastic place.
this with Lisa Aziz.
Police say there has been a significant development in the search for missing teenager Becky Watts from Bristol. The 16-year-old was last seen at her house 12 days ago. 2 people are still being held on suspicion of her murder. Avon and Somerset Police are expected to give us an update in the next hour. London Mayor Boris Johnson's told LBC it's important people have confidence in the police after figures show nearly 50 Met officers have been suspended for alleged corruption. In the past 2 years, of the 47 that were suspended, 11 were convicted. Mr Johnson's told LBC corruption needs to be stamped out.
50 to be suspended over 2 years is obviously a lot. I think you have to set it in context. You're looking at an organisation of 52,000 people or thereabouts, 32,000 roughly frontline officers. You're talking about a huge number of people, but that is too many.
The Met says suspensions don't imply guilt and all allegations are taken extremely seriously. Proposals for a new criminal offence could see public officials and councillors jailed if they fail to protect children from sexual exploitation. David Cameron will outline plans later to extend the crime of willful neglect to cover social care and education. At 9:15, the FTSE was up 22 at 69.62, and LBC weather cloudy with some rain to start off for London and the southeast. Clearing though to leave a bright breezy day with isolated showers, highs of 8 degrees. Central and southern England chilly but plenty of sunshine along with scattered showers, hail, sleet and snow at times across Wales and the northwest. Most of Scotland staying dry and bright, wintry showers though for Northern Ireland. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
This is Ask Boris on LBC.
Yes, Ask Boris about another 10 minutes with London Mayor Boris
on.
Johnson. A quick question for you, Mr. Mayor.
Did I tell you Burberry was falling?
You did, indeed.
Okay,
How many
good.
times has the Cross-Thames cable car been closed this year?
Oh, don't. Are you going to persist? Are you going to persist in your maniacal hatred of the most wonderful, one of the most beautiful cable cars ever constructed? Not the cable car, of course, the Emirates airline.
Yes. How many times has it been closed this year?
If you give me prior notice of these questions, I'll be
Why
very
should I have
happy
to give you prior notice?
I'll be very, because you're asking me a detailed technical question about the operation.
5, 10 or 20?
About the operation. I should tell you something about the cable car, which I think our listeners now know because they'll have heard me say it so many times.
5, 10 or 20?
It is the only piece of transport infrastructure in London that is going to cover both its capital and its revenue costs in the next 10 years or so. And that is an incredible achievement. I don't care whether it's 5
it's
or
20.
10 or
it's
20.
It's the highest number of closures ever
and
at this period of year since it was constructed.
Big deal. I
can't really answer that, can I? When you said in January,
come on,
you've got to have a very...
By the way, ridership is... By the way, I don't know why you're giving battle on this field, which is so completely unfavourable to your cause, because actually the cable car is showing stunning increases in ridership. And...
Trouble is, people might want to go down. They have to check it's not a windy day.
Well, obviously you've got to be careful. If you can't have over most of the time the cable car is functioning beautifully and brilliantly, and I urge people to get on it, and people love it when they get on it. They absolutely love it. You see London in a way you've never seen it before. It's absolutely true, and it's getting more and more ridership and. In the end, it's going to pay for itself. If you add up the sponsorship plus it's already covering it. Do you know, the cable car already covers its revenue costs. So with the fees we're getting from the users, well, you can't say that of the tube, my friend. Right. You can't say that of the buses, amigo. That is the cable car.
Okay. When you said in January, you've got to have very tough security solutions. You've got to be absolutely determined to monitor these people, potential terrorists. You've got to know where they are and who they are talking to. How much eavesdropping are you prepared to put up with?
There has to be a balance struck, and I've obviously what I'm saying is intended to give support to our police, to the security services in what they tell me they need, and I don't want absolutely some universal right for junior police officers to surf everybody's email accounts or what. Obviously that's wrong.
But you do want control orders.
There have to be proper protections, and there has to be judicial oversight. I think that's the key thing, and that's certainly the point I would make in respect of journalistic phone records, for instance. But there's got to be the fundamental ability of the security services and the police to be able to access this stuff pretty promptly if they need to. We're talking about people who can use social media, who can use the internet to communicate. If they are doing so in such a way as to prepare to commit atrocities, I think most people would want our police, our security services, to have that basic ability. And, I don't have a principled objection to that. I really, really don't. On control orders, as I've said, the argument that's been put to me is that we need to get away from TPIMS, which stands for...
I remember, do you?
Give me the thing again.
Well, you just mentioned it, I didn't.
Terrorism, prevention, something measure.
You've mentioned it, not me.
We need to get...
What do they stand for again?
We need to get away from...
You're well-educated, I only told you 20 minutes ago.
We need to get away from the TPIM, whatever it stands for, and get back to the...
Terrorism Prevention and Investigation Measure.
Thank you. The Terrorism Prevention and Investigation Measure.
You brought it up, not me. And, Don't glare at me. I'm not
glaring at you. No, I'm not glaring at you. I'm delighted that you've re-elucidated our listeners on this point. But the Terrorism Prevention Investigation Measure, we need to get away from, and what we need to do is go back to control orders. And can we go to Len in Oxford?
Len, you're on the radio. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, bubbly Boris. Nick, stop being so horrible to Boris, will you?
He's not. Actually, he's just very hungover.
I'm not. You can talk. We move on. I am not hungover. I drank water. As Kelvin Mackenzie can testify. Right, on we go, Len.
Anyway, two very simple questions, Boris. Hypothetically, if there was no leader of the party at the moment, I'm a strong UKIP supporter for my sins. If you ran for Prime Minister, I would vote Conservatives. And the second question is, are you capable of being Prime Minister? There you go.
Well, what I'm capable of is campaigning hard for my friend David Cameron to get re-elected, and I think, by the way, that he will, Len. And if you look at the polls, they are moving very, very well. That you had two yesterday, which are giving us a 3-point lead. I'm encouraged by that.
Hypothetically, Boris.
I think that the straws in the wind are now starting to turn into a bit of a... Can you have a bale of straws in the wind? I mean, I don't know whether you could have a bale.
Who are you drinking with, love? Oh, you were at the St David's Day dinner.
There's a bale of straws in the wind, in my view, Len, that are inclining me to think that we're going to be. People are basically making a calculation that the economy is turning round, things are getting better. Jobs are being created to get to a scale we haven't seen for a long time, and I don't think they're going to want Labour to screw it up.
You didn't quite answer. Let's Len put the question again.
Len's hypothetical questions, I'm afraid, however potentially flattering they may be to anybody, are just not going to materialise. I'm afraid.
Right. Why do you vote UKIP, lastly, Len? If I might ask you that. If I may ask you?
I think based on the character of Farage, maybe he's a bit wishy-washy here and there, but he's got kind of the right ideas. In my opinion, he's the best of the bad lot at the moment. I would prefer to vote someone like Conservative, and my only way I would change my vote is if Boris ran for Prime Minister. I'm sorry, Cameron's, in my opinion, is just not cut out for it now.
Well, Len, you know, as politicians, as you know, always say, you know, I hear what you say, but in the end, David Cameron is, I think, doing a fantastic job. You know, he's got he's cut out to be a Prime Minister. He's plainly, you know, made from prime ministerial timber, unlike I think Ed Miliband. And if ultimately, Len, you know, you may think you want Nigel Farage and all the rest of it, but in the end, you vote for him, you're going to get Ed Miliband, and that I think would be an absolute shocker for our country.
We move on, Len. Thank you for your call. Where are we going next, Mr.
Can
Mayor?
we go to Jonathan in Hertfordshire?
Oh, good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, sir.
Just a quick question. Obviously, with the BBC Charter coming up for negotiations next year, do you think the BBC should lose their licence? Should it be abolished?
I have to say, I can't see how it can go on forever, having a tax on TVs that, you know, not everybody uses anymore. I can barely make my TV work. Frankly, sometimes I come down, I sit at home, you know, waiting for, shouting pathetically for some child to come and help me turn it on. I have no idea.
Well, hopefully one of your children, otherwise we really have got a problem.
I have no idea. Uncalled for, pointless low blow. I have no idea sometimes how to turn it on. The TV is not now the way that many
fault,
many
Mr.
people.
Mayor. You don't know how to switch on your
but
TV.
There's a broader point, which is many people now no longer get their news. Many young people in particular no longer get their news from TV. From, you know, they don't listen. They don't listen to the Today programme. They don't listen to I don't watch TV news anymore. I'm ashamed to say I really don't. You get it all it's all on the web. So the BBC needs to think about its future. I happen to think that there is a case for having a very high standard of public broadcasting. Now, whether you need the full whack of the licence fee, all that money, I must say I somehow doubt. And I think that, you know, there is going to have to be a change. I think that we are moving in that direction. I was struck the other day that the Parliamentary Committee said the licence fee should be prolonged for another 10 years. That seems to me to be too long, not to be taking account of the very rapid changes in
So every house would pay a levy. In a way, isn't it even more? Well, Lord Hall, the Director General, was suggesting, and he clearly buys much of your argument. Every house would have a levy.
Only Tony Hall does buy the. I mean, the question. Well, at the moment, every house pays 150 quid in a levy on their television, which is crap.
But now they'll pay even if they haven't got a telly.
Well, the question is how much will they pay, and what will they be supporting?
So you pay a levy for something you haven't got.
Well, yeah, what you're talking about is some form of taxation anyway. You're talking about some form of taxation for the BBC. The basic question that Jonathan is asking is: do you need public sector broadcasting at all? Should we be putting taxpayers' money into broadcasting? And I think the argument would be that we put taxpayers' money into supporting all sorts of arts. We support, you know, and they would die in this country if we didn't have support for the arts. I think you probably do need to support quality broadcasting, proper, fantastic production such as the BBC specialises. Whether you need to support the whole machine with its, and it can be, the BBC, by the way, can be extremely anti-competitive. They take huge sums of money effectively from the taxpayer, from the licence payer, and use it to cross-subsidise businesses that demolish local local newspapers, local websites, all sorts of ways in which the BBC is deeply anti-competitive. So I think my answer to Jonathan would be this thing needs to be rethought. The licence fee is plainly anachronistic. I think Tony Hall's on the right line. It needs to be trimmed. It needs to be cut. But I think you're never going to get away from a situation in which people feel the certainty that we are supporting really, really high quality public broadcasting in this country. I think it'd be a shame to lose that.
All right.
I'm going to go to Nikki in St John's Wood.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, that's Nikki Clark,
Nikki Clark.
isn't it? Yes, indeed. You're through to someone who could certainly do with your skills.
Nikki Clark.
Yes, the hairdresser.
Oh, yes, right, yes, Nikki, absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Massive London business, this
absolutely.
man runs.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Clark. How's it going?
It's going very, very well. Actually, I'm going to just put out there, Nick, do you remember we had a conversation, must have been about 4 or 5 years ago,
yep.
Pre the cable car crossing, and I said to you, Nick, I've just come back from skiing and I've had this wonderful idea about having a cable car or sets of cable cars that actually run along the embankment.
Yes.
I remember you saying to me, well, we should tell Boris.
Yes.
What a great idea.
Yes.
But of course, actually, what we have now is actually going across
Yes.
the Thames. Why have we not thought about actually running either north to south or certainly down the embankment with, the system that we see on the Alps all the time?
Nikki, it's a very, very interesting idea. I think we'd have to study the business case and see whether we were actually supplying a transport need. West End people, some people from the West End came to see me with a proposal for a cable car down Oxford Street, which of course totally entranced me. But in the end, it wasn't really the answer. And they can be, in the wrong place. I think they can look a bit kind of forbidding, and there's a risk that it would kind of look like a bit like a sort of old, a pit village with clanking things.
I'm not so sure. I think done in either the red, white, and blue, or
yes,
that's a good idea.
Some London colours, and certainly having two speeds, maybe ones that kind of are slightly slower, that people could get on and off. I think it sounds like and of course, private enterprise and the infrastructure could be easily. We know how it works. I think it would look rather nice.
Let's make sure.
Well, Nikki, I tell you what. If you have what you need to do is find some promoters who want to do it, and who actually have a business case for it, and we'll look at it. I'm not now going to start a project to build a cable car down the Thames. I think English heritage would go absolutely ape about the destruction of the views. So we'd have to deal with that.
Nikki, we will do some work on that and see what Mr. Mayor says.
Can we go now to Asim? We got Asim from Cage. I think that's right. I know.
Human Rights Group. Go ahead. Is this Asim Qureshi?
Yeah, hi there.
Go ahead, Mr. Qureshi.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, so Boris, over the last couple of days, you said a lot of stuff about me, my organisation, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to have a quick chat with you. Maybe
yes, absolutely.
A quick reason discussion about this, because I feel that our opinions on this matter have been somewhat unfairly represented. At the end of the day, what this young man has done is absolutely horrific. And I
think it's important. It's important that you should get that out there, Asim, because it wasn't, I have to say, entirely clear from your initial response to this.
At the very beginning of our press conference, Boris, and if you please, do go back and listen to it. I think what you'll see is that what we're saying is that, as an organisation, we've made a commitment to working against arbitrary detention, extrajudicial killing, and torture. And regardless of who perpetrates it, as Muslims, we believe that be just, even if it goes against yourself. That's what the Quran tells us. So even if it's against me, my family, whoever, if they're carrying out these horrific acts, then they have to be held to account. All we're asking for, Boris, is just a little bit of
go on.
About the period in the UK. That's it. That's all.
Look, I have to say, what moved me to anger was the thought that you were claiming, and I think this was exactly what you were saying, was that the fault for the radicalisation of this young guy lay with the security services, and the bit I watched you explain how he had been seeking, quote unquote, a career overseas, and had been impeded by the security services in finding his vocation. Actually, he was going off to join a terrorist group in Somalia, and
I will come back to Mr. Qureshi.
I really think that the focus of your indignation and your outrage should be on people who go out to join groups that throw gays off cliffs, that behead people who don't subscribe to their version of Islam, that glorify in the execution of innocent journalists and aid workers. They should be the object of your wrath, not the security services who are trying to keep us safe, Asim. That is my view, and I urge you more powerfully to differentiate between people like Mr. Mwazi and ordinary Muslims, and not somehow instantly to cry Islamophobia or whatever when people criticise, attack, denounce those who go out and engage in such atrocities. That should be your priority.
Boris, we don't need to do that because the whole of the Muslim community is against these kinds of abuses. Trust me.
I watched you. I'm afraid I watched you very carefully during that interview, and you were asked several times to condemn and to denounce what Mr. Emwazi had been doing, and the rest of ISIL. And you started off by instantly drawing comparisons with Tony Blair and Dick Cheney and all sorts of other irrelevant nonsense. You know, if you're going to have an impact, Asim, if you're going to have an impact on the lives, on the minds of young Muslims, you've got to focus on what these people are doing wrong and not immediately start scattering blame around. You've got to focus on where they've got their lives wrong, where they're making the false choices that they're making, the false understanding that they have of Islam. That should be your focus. Focus on what they've got wrong about Islam and explain it much more powerfully than you're currently doing.
We must have let Mr. Qureshi come back. Mr. Qureshi?
Yeah. Boris, what we're trying to explain is the fact that these things are extremely complicated. We never said that he was radicalised by MI5 to commit beheadings. What we said
you did say that.
No, not at all. I never said that once. I said what we want is to understand whether or not the security agencies, their actions led to him feeling like he did not belong part of UK society. That's it.
I just
direct causality.
Please. I just feel that you've got it 100% the wrong way up. You need to see this thing through differently. The security services are trying to keep us safe. They cannot conceivably be blamed for their actions in trying to prevent people from committing absolutely sick atrocities against the British public and indeed against innocent people in Syria and Iraq. If you're a human rights group funded by charity, then you should be sticking up for the human rights of those who are being beheaded in Syria and in northern Iraq. That should be the focus of your concern.
And that's where we must leave it. Mr. Qureshi, thank you. London Mayor Boris Johnson, thank you very much for coming in on Ask Boris on LBC Aware. We'll give you a travel update after this.
I'm Chris Golds in the LBC Travel Centre on the M25 clockwise. It's pretty slow between junction 8 for Reigate and 10 for the Wisley interchange. Also anti-clockwise, there's queues between junction 17 for Maple Cross and 15 for the M4. In the city on Upper Thames Street, there are queues with one lane closed because of